We've been talking about schedules a lot, and so I figured we hadn't hit the ACC yet. Let's hit the ACC because we graded all the schedules ourselves. So we're looking at it and we're saying we already think we have a pretty good grasp on who has the toughest and easiest schedules in each conference. Why don't we talk about winners and losers? Now, we can adjust this coming out of spring, but I can tell you one thing I'm not going to change my opinion on is while everyone's talking about Bill Belichick taking over at North Carolina, I'm going to be talking about the fact that he just inherited the easiest schedule in the conference, maybe the easiest schedule in the country in the Power Four. They have one game against teams we rate either Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 3. Syracuse plays 7 by comparison. They're both in the same conference. Again, I take this opportunity to remind you scheduling is broken in college football because conferences are broken in college football because we got way too many teams in each one of them. And so Syracuse gets the shaft this year. North Carolina, they could not have gift-wrapped Bill Belichick an easier road. If Bill Belichick himself was told, you have to make your schedule, he would have made it harder than this because he would have felt guilty if he made this schedule for himself. They avoid 5 of the top 6 teams, preseason odds, to win the ACC. We've got it rated as the second easiest schedule in all of Power 4. That doesn't mean he's going to do anything. Like, they may still be 5-7 for all I know, but if they're going to shock the world, they've got the schedule to do it. I also think Georgia Tech's a pretty big winner here in ACC schedule terms. Now, Georgia Tech, it's always weird because you know they're going to play Georgia. They do get Georgia, yes, but they get them at home. Remember, they took them to 14 overtimes last year. They get them at home this year. They get Clemson, but they get them at home, and they get them early in the year. They only have 2 games versus teams we have rated Tier 1, 2, or 3. I just named them, and they get them both at home. This is already a program that's trending up big time. They bring back their quarterback in Haynes King. They avoid 5 of the top 6 teams in FanDuel's preseason ACC odds. Their only rest disadvantage is against Wake Forest, and it's Wake Forest. So if you've got a team that you're facing and they're coming off a bye and you're not, like, that's, it's not the worst thing in the world. It says they play Temple on October 20th. I think we probably mean September 20th there. And I'm proud of myself because this is the first time I have ever caught one of our graphics glitches on air, which saves me the trouble of having 97 people come in the comments afterwards on the video when Colin posted it and point out what is just an obvious flaw. Yes, okay, Temple, they're playing them on September 20th, not October 20th. Now for the losers in the ACC scheduling lottery. Hey, quick timeout. Check and see if you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. If you're not, I humbly ask that you click subscribe. It's free. It doesn't sign you up for anything. What it does is it helps us keep this show free so we can just do college football year-round. All right, back to the clip. Yes, Clemson is a loser here. Out of conference is tough. They play LSU to start the season. They play South Carolina to end the season. Good for them. Good for them for scheduling that way. They ought not be punished for it unless they lose each one of them by 30, but good for them. However, they also play 6 of the top 7 teams on the ACC championship odds board at FanDuel, so that's tough. They play at Georgia Tech this year. They play at North Carolina and at Boston College back-to-back. They go to Louisville. That's a Friday game after they play FSU. So they go on the road to play one of the best teams in the conference on short rest late in the season. And they also have to go to South Carolina. I mentioned that as an out-of-conference game. They end the season playing 5 straight games. Now, the reason that's important is because this is a double bye year. Again, everyone gets 2 bye weeks. So theoretically, you want your byes spaced out to where you never play 5 games in a row. The most you play is 4 in a row. They didn't get screwed quite as bad as Miami did, which I'll tell you about in a second, but they do play 5 to end the year. What you ask yourself there is, let's say you go to the ACC championship game. Who are you playing, and what's the rest advantage they may have on you? You don't know until you find out who you're playing. I think Syracuse is a loser here. I just mentioned this is the total opposite of 2024. Fran Brown came into Syracuse, and what did we say about him? We said, ton of energy, everyone's going to love him. Look at the schedule he inherited. And boom, they sure enough, they popped a surprise season on America. Well, this year, that team's North Carolina. Syracuse, total opposite. They get one of the toughest schedules. In fact, we have this rated as the toughest schedule in the ACC this year. They play Tennessee and Notre Dame out of conference, and then they go to Clemson, to SMU, to Georgia Tech, and to Miami. They play 5 teams we have rated Tier 1 or Tier 2. North Carolina plays 1 by comparison. So we've got Syracuse as a loser, and I got Miami as a loser in the scheduling lottery in the ACC too. Here's the problem with them. So you got to understand what Miami's going to be looking at. They brought Carson Beck in at quarterback, but Beck's not going to partake in spring because he's rehabbing. So you ask yourself, will he be healthy to start the season? They think he will be. Then the follow-up is, okay, what percentage of healthy is he? And then also consider he's being plugged into a new offense. So does he come out of the gate hot? Or is it really, really hit and miss early and they peak middle of the season or later? Well, if they do, the problem is they've got Notre Dame week 1. They got Florida week 4. They got FSU week 6. It's a front-loaded schedule. And not only that, you got Miami about as south as any team could get on the map, having to go to Blacksburg, Virginia, and having to go to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania the last 2 weeks of the season, back-to-back, both cold weather games. No way to know what the temperature is going to be that day. But I know about Virginia and Pennsylvania in late November. And they usually don't look like postcards. Let me put it that way. They play 7 games to end the season, too. So the schedule makers, somehow, some way, in a year where you have 2 bye weeks, took Miami's schedule and they put the 2 bye weeks in like a 3 or 4 week period, I think it is. So they play Florida State, they get 1 bye week. Then they play Louisville, Stanford, and I can't remember where the other bye week is, but it's like right in the middle of the season, they got 2 bye weeks. So they play 7 games to end the season, including back-to-back road games at the very end, and think about it within the context of the ACC championship game. If you go, you're playing your 8th consecutive game, and you're coming off back-to-back road games. So it's basically a 3rd road game in a row because you'd be playing in Charlotte. So it's tough, man. It shouldn't happen. You should never, ever, ever have back-to-back road games to finish a season in conference, ever, because that bakes in the possibility that you play 3 consecutive road games. And outside of what the SEC has done to Arkansas since forever, no one should have that kind of schedule dropped in their lap. But it was. So there you go.